Hey guys, welcome back to Say Mojo Homestead. We are talking about plant care today, specifically tomatoes. I went ahead and trimmed our tomatoes this week, and I wanted to first explain why we will prune the tomatoes the way we are pruning them. The first reason is South Carolina humidity. The humidity and the moisture can be really detrimental to a tomato plant. It can encourage blight. That's the biggest problem we've had with the moisture. Last year we had so much rain and it was so humid that we really fought the blight. But we didn't trim them as heavily as we're trimming them this year until after we already had the problem. So blight is a fungus, and what happens is it will get on the leaves or it will get on the plant, and then as it rains, the rain splashing off those leaves and onto the ground, into the soil, and onto the other plants, it spreads that fungus throughout your garden. That is one thing we're really wanting to make sure we don't have to fight this year. So we are going to be pruning ours pretty heavily. I want to show you, we prune pretty much the lower part of our tomato plants so that nothing is touching the ground. And we also want to get rid of anything that is growing in the middle. Now this one is a sucker that I probably should have gotten rid of, but because this plant grew so quickly and we didn't get rid of it sooner, it already has all these little baby tomatoes on it, and this area is pretty airy, so I just want to see if it'll be okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and just leave that one. But for the most part, we got rid of all of those suckers that grow in the middle, because the more suckers you leave on your plant, it steals energy away from your plant producing those tomatoes, and also it just creates more pockets for that moisture to live on those leaves. We want airflow. That's the most important thing when you live in a wet or humid climate and you have tomatoes, so that all that moisture can dry. The other reason why we prune our tomatoes is what I said already. We want all that energy going to our tomatoes, not necessarily to creating more these suckers and more leaves. It just takes so much energy to produce those suckers and have them grow, especially when they're literally in every single nook and cranny. It just takes away from the energy going to the fruit of the plant. We did not prune them as heavily when we first started growing tomatoes, and we still got tomatoes, but our goal this year is lots of good, healthy tomatoes. And so that's what we are doing to prevent the blight is the really big issue. So the other thing I wanted to share with you today is how we are using everyday items to fertilize our plants. One thing that most of you have probably heard about is coffee grounds. Now, coffee grounds are good to add to your soil because they can help with the acidity level of your soil. Tomatoes need that added acidity level. The other thing that they have in them that is very good for tomatoes is nitrogen. Now, you will know if your tomato needs nitrogen or your vegetable plant needs nitrogen if it starts to yellow. That is one really clear sign that you have a nitrogen deficiency in your soil. They also contain potassium and phosphorus, just great nutrients for your plant growth. So the way you want to apply these coffee grounds is at the base of your plant. Let me show you again. There we are. So you want to apply them at the base of your plant, and then you can mix them gently into the soil. Obviously, because they aren't in a liquid form, they are going to have to be broken down by worms, or as you water, some of that nutrients will get into the soil. As with all of these things I'm going to talk about right now, it's more of a long-term fertilization. It's not a quick fertilizing, quick feeding method. These are all going to help amend the soil that your plants are in. If you have a plant that is showing signs of distress or not growing well and they need that immediate fix, you can make a tea with most of these things that I'm going to share with you. And because they will be in liquid form, the plant will be able to absorb the liquid right away, and it will help your plant immediately. A lot of them can also be sprayed directly on the foliage to be absorbed into the plant. So coffee is not one of those that I've read is super great with a liquid. It can be too acidic. To be the safest, you want to put your coffee grounds either directly in your compost or, like I said, around the base of the plant for your worms to go ahead and consume, and then do what they do and break them down and put that nutrients back into your soil. The other thing that you might not know you have in your kitchen that is great for your plants is banana peels. Now, this does not look like your normal everyday banana peel. I'm going to take a tablespoon of this, and obviously I need more, so I'm keeping track of which tomatoes are getting it and which ones aren't. A banana peel will contain a lot of potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, and calcium, all really good for your plants. Calcium will help prevent blossom end rot, and it also supports the cellular structure in your plants. Very important to have in your soil. So again, this is just something I want in the soil. If my plants needed it right now, I would go ahead and make this into a tea. The best way to use a banana peel in your garden is not to bury a peel. It's going to take a long time for that banana peel to break down. You put that in your compost that you're going to use in a year. You want to dry it. I have a dehydrator. I dehydrated this. You can chop the banana peel up and it'll dehydrate much faster. If you don't have a dehydrator, you can dehydrate it in your oven, or you could put it on a metal sheet outside on a hot day. And then I just put it in a blender, and I'm going to put a tablespoon around the base of my plants that I have enough for. The other thing that you have in your kitchen probably that you can use in your garden is eggshells. Now, you will see lots of people posting that they just put an egg in their garden, or they crush up shells around the base. Crushing up the shells around the base is great if you have slug issues, but it's gonna take a long time for that eggshell to break down enough for it to actually be beneficial for your plant. Eggshells are another thing that you can go ahead and make a tea out of if you need a quick fix for your garden, or if, like me, you're just making sure your soil has enough food to get through the summer and you're amending it. I dry it in the oven just to make sure it's very dry and brittle. And then I put it in a food processor, and this is like a powder. So it's going to break down even faster and be a faster food source for my tomatoes. Eggshells are good because they have the calcium in it, which again is helpful for blossom end rot. We did have some of that on our melons last year, so this is just more preventative. This is a new part of the garden though, and I don't know what the soil is like. We did not do a soil test. And we brought in compost from another source. So I'm doing this more to ensure that we don't have that problem and that we do have enough calcium in our garden. The last thing I want to share with you that you can get to amend your soil or to feed your plants is Epsom salt. Now, I will say this is a food grade, agricultural grade, non-GMO Epsom salt. I don't know if it matters, but I was getting this for specifically for this use. You could probably Google and see if you could use regular Epsom salt if nothing else was added to it, but this was really cheap, and I was intentionally looking for it for this specific use. It's also an animal grade, so I figured if I don't use it all in the garden, I could maybe use it with some of the livestock that we have. Epsom salt is great for your vegetable plants because it helps with cell and root development. It's really good when they're early on in the summer, but again, also good for just overall fruit production and the health of the plant. It'll give you a nice bushy green plant. And it also helps with that fruit yield, which we obviously want to get as much fruit as we can. I'm going to put a tablespoon of this of the Epsom salt around the base of each plant. I'm going to put a tablespoon of the dried banana peels at the base of as many plants as I can. I'm going to also put a tablespoon of my dried eggshells to the base of my plants. And then I'm going to put coffee grounds around the base of the plant and kind of mix it into the soil.
So, quick update, since this video was made about a week ago, a little less, check out these clippings that Cass took. We already have so many roots on here. Tomato plants are one of the easiest things to root. That has all happened within 4 days. So we're gonna let these roots get a little bit thicker, a little more mature, and then we will be putting these guys in the ground as well. We do have a couple of tomato plants that just need to be replaced because they just have not done very well. And so we'll probably be replacing them with these clippings. We even have a couple of blooms on them.
That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me as I care for our tomato plants in our garden. If you like this kind of content, be sure you give us a thumbs up. We would love for you to comment if you've used any of these in your garden, or if you have other things that you like to use in your garden. We would love for you to share them with us. Also, if you haven't, please subscribe and become part of our YouTube family. We love having people join us on this journey, this homesteading journey that we're on. For those of you that have subscribed already, thank you so much. We really appreciate you following us and interacting with us and commenting. Feels like we have a community and, like we call it, a YouTube family. So I hope you guys have a fantastic week and be blessed.